Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sixth session of the day. Thank you for our patience. We had some technical issues getting our speaker into where we needed him to. So I am joined by Keel Jared, VP of Digital at GES. Keel is going to be giving us a presentation on a digital journey, the visitor's path to an event always begins with digital, and why that is. Keel, the floor is yours.
Hey, everybody. My name's actually Kyle Jarrett, but that's okay. I get called Keel on a daily basis, and we'll respond to it if shouted Keel. But I am the Global VP of Digital at GES. I have come from outside of the digital industry, or I'm sorry, the events industry. My background's in digital. Digital is digital marketing, digital user experience, whether internal or external. So I kind of get my hands on a little bit of everything. I'll even take a look at your mom's email if she's having some trouble from time to time. So I am going to talk today about the visitor's path. You know, what is your visitor? How do they begin with the digital experience, and what does that look like as an ecosystem of content and marketing and assets that are going to continue to deliver an experience that's going to be relevant both before the event, during the event, and after the event. So I like to look at the experience as an infinite loop, because as we know, an event has a beginning and an end, but ostensibly you're going to be planning for your next event for the following year as soon as your event is over. So the planning for launching or promoting an event that's about to happen, right? It comes from making your audience aware of what they're looking to get into, getting them to engage, getting them to subscribe, making them a part of your community even before the event actually happens. And then continuing that show experience when they're at the show, maintaining some of those same digital tools and pieces so that when they are at the show, it's still sharing in their same social channels or the community conversations that they're having. And then past the show, they're going to continue to connect with the people they met. They're going to continue to advocate for what a great time they had. And they're going to cross-promote it until the following year when this happens again. And then you can kind of start it all again. But now you've kind of planted the seeds. You've built an audience over a attendee, and you've started to engage in a way that's going to be more meaningful to the complete show experience. Oh. I get to the next slide. There we go. So first of all, let's call our visitors our audience. The reason I want to say that is because visitors are visitors. Visitors come and go. But your audience is someone that is captivated by the reason that they're at a show or at an event or at a concert, whatever it is. They're just visitors. They come and go. But your audience believes in you, and they're there for a reason. But we got to understand our audience. So I'm going to take you through some thoughts around how do we get to know our audience? How do we get to know who they are, where they live, where they breathe? And then once you understand who they are, then you can worry about reaching your audience. Once you know where they are on social media, or where they spend their time shopping, or what they do that goes beyond just this individual event. I mean, there's dozens of tools out there for getting that information, but are those tools actually too much information? How can we disseminate that down into useful bits of content so we can be as efficient as possible with utilizing that? How do we engage with that audience? Once we know where they are, how do we give them pieces of content or ads or emails or social posts that they care about, right? I mean, we get bombarded with stuff all day, every day. What's going to make me click? What's going to make me like? What's going to make me share? These are the things that we want to continue to cultivate and do it in an efficient way. And then once we've got that system in place, how do we do it all again? I mean, once we know what did or didn't work, let's get to know our audience even better. Let's get to know the right audience for the right things that we're delivering, and keep that infinite loop going so that it's a continued evolution of the content that we're delivering. Next slide. Yeah, yeah. That'd be helpful. The arrow likes to move a little slow. So, where is our audience? Who is our audience? What websites do they visit? There's some great tools out there for kind of breaking down by different demographics. What websites are event marketers going to, or what, or even more granular, what websites are CMOs of event tech companies going to, right? If we can break that down and start to amalgamate that data into some meaningful decisions, we can put our ads in the right places. We can also speak to them as the way that they are preferred to be spoken to. What internet searches do they perform? This is a big part of SEO. SEO, we get wrapped up in keywords, but it's really kind of a combination of keywords. We want to understand users' intent, right? We don't talk to Alexa or our devices like, groceries now, right? But like we tend to search in a way that's more robotic. Like, how can we find long tail keywords and phrases that are going to be meaningful to the user's search and make sure that our content and our information and our presence shows up where it is and how it is that they actually search for those terms. Where do they shop online? Trying to find both endemic and non-endemic shopping places that they go to. Is it likely that event marketers also like, bakery goods, or is it, what is it that they like that coexists in this space that we can live with and we can live within and post within and share within and just kind of become part of that community as though we know the community and not that we're just a standby or just trying to tag along. What social media sites do they use? How often do they use them? What are they sharing? What are they liking? What are they engaging with? These are things just to getting to know your audience is going to make a significant difference in how well you can create the right content to connect with them. This is something that is near and dear to my heart in terms of really getting a project moving. Now, it kind of feels a little out of sorts maybe for this type of conversation, but once we've done all the research and we've got all the stakeholders involved with their ideas about whether it should be blue or pink or purple, and we've got all of our goals and KPIs of how we're going to drive the right amount of traffic and revenue, it's always thrown over to a digital team or a production team to actually get the job done. Like, make me this ad with this tagline, or make me this graphic with this visual background. But one of the things we run into is without a proper project brief and full understanding of what it is that we're trying to accomplish, it's almost impossible to deliver the right message. And if we go back to that infinity loop, part of this is an experiment in constantly forming a hypothesis, testing the hypothesis, and then circulating that back into another hypothesis that we can run again. So we need to form a business challenge. We need to figure out what our business challenge is. We need to understand what the underlying reason is. Why are we having this event? Or what is the problem we're trying to solve for said audience that we're trying to drive to this event? And if we can do that for verticals, or we can do that for different persona types, we can start to deliver messaging and relevant answers to those problems. It's going to drive them through the process in a more meaningful way. It helps us develop our messaging. Our messaging is it's easy to throw out some catchy taglines or to sit in a conference room and come up with some clever ideas. But like, if they don't answer that business challenge, it's hard to really make them actionable. The audience, we talked about the audience earlier. So identifying who that audience is and who this specific business challenge is related to will help us define where those assets live. Like, are we designing a LinkedIn ad, but it's for an audience that doesn't live on LinkedIn? That's a terrible idea. So let's make sure we define the audience in that brief so we're building the right assets for that experience. And then figuring out your existing assets. I think one of the biggest misses in a digital marketing campaign, especially for an event, which has to be done quickly and turnkey and over and over again, is what assets have we created in the past? How many times do we have to rehash these same business challenges? Can we pull from existing assets, refresh them, repurpose them, and just make the business and the workflow as efficient as possible? All right. So once you've got your content, once you know what you're trying to do, you can create the most beautiful stuff imaginable. You can know where you want to put it or where those people are. But the very best content marketing plan can only go as far as great content will take it. I'm not sure if Abraham Lincoln said that or not, but ultimately, creating great content shouldn't be the end of your challenge. Creating great visuals and great emails and great social media content is just the mere beginning. How do we amplify that through the right channels? How do we get that into the right social feeds and the right paid ad display networks? That's a challenge that's unique to itself. Going back to that project brief, if we understand who, how, and where these people are going to be, we can start to amplify that content in a meaningful way. Does it always have to be an advertisement? No. Does it always have to be some email blast? No, it needs to be a system that is delivered through the channels that you've defined in a efficient and repeatable way. I keep going back to efficient because we are in a place where the events industry as a whole has been, we've been squeezed, right? We're doing 10 times the work with a tenth of the staff. And you've got, especially in marketing, I'm sure you've got people that are now running the email marketing program that used to have to do 5 other things at the same time. So finding these needs and finding the solutions to those needs to be as efficient, as turnkey as possible is going to be essential to the success of your campaign and your digital marketing presence. Understanding your content funnel is another big part of the process. So once we've understood our audience, we've gotten to know who they are, what do they want to hear, we've developed a plan for how to reach them, how to get in front of them. We start to deliver the type of content that's going to drive them down the funnel. Now, the funnel is, typically a whole bunch of people that we don't know, right? I like to use the analogy of a giant pond, right? You're fishing. So how do we chum the waters in a way that's going to attract all of the fish, right? We want to just share it out there. Maybe it's just the idea of the teaser of that this thing is going to happen. So as awareness, as the user, I'm thinking, okay, I got a problem, but I don't know exactly what it is, so I'm going to start Googling, right? I'm trying to figure out if I'm how to run email marketing for my event, right? So you start Googling things like email marketing tools, or you start, following an email marketing blog on Twitter, and before you know it, you're kind of getting ideas about what it is. Now, you're not necessarily engaging with these brands or contacting the salesperson at those brands, but you're just kind of getting to know it. So how do you as an event or as a product exist in that space to where you're educating an audience without the need to just gimme, right? Like we want to make sure that we're constantly feeding the machine of getting them to know you better. That's where blogs are great. That's where social media is great, right? Just let them know that you're here. Let them know that you're doing something meaningful. Then the next phase is the consideration phase, right? We're trying to deliver them down the pipe, right? We're kind of trying to get them to convert, to purchase a ticket, to just attend in general, right? But now they know what they want. Now you've delivered them enough information and content that's useful. Now, what's going to be your differentiator, right? Like what is the difference between event A and event B, or solution A and solution C? Like, can we give them enough context to help them make those decisions? And maybe that's through ways of actually capturing them at that point. Maybe we are delivering gated content to the why or when they're going to get that next email from us. In the consideration phase, we can also retarget them. We can drop ads on their on their social feeds and their email marketing feeds. So because they clicked on our website through the awareness phase, we can kind of follow them around in a meaningful way that's not too creepy, but still kind of delivers our message in a way that's going to help them get over that hump. And then obviously the decision phase, right? Like what is that final piece that's going to allow them to go, yes, this is it. This meets all my needs. It's the right price. It's the right timing. It's the right content. How do I convert at this point? And if you develop your content so that it can fill these buckets, you can start to segment your audience in a way that's going to deliver the right message to the right people, right? So instead of, chumming the waters and just trying to fish for all the fish, right? You chum the waters and then you're trying to fish this particular type of fish with this type of bait and this type of fish with this type of bait, right? It's a world where if we can continue to deliver the right message to the right people, they will feel more engaged with the content that you deliver. It seems pretty simple, but it's if you're not building your campaigns that way, you're just kind of building one size fits all information for folks. Next slide, please. So some other good bullet points when kind of creating a content strategy are questions or just thoughts of what you should be building for, right? And this goes back to some of the points that I've already made. One is, how do you provide the right experience for each channel, right? I mean, that kind of goes back to knowing what channels are important. Building the same graphic for Instagram doesn't always work on Twitter. And building the same video for YouTube doesn't always work on Facebook Live, right? So developing the content in a way that's going to reach the audience at the right in the right way is also going to be important. It's easy to just kind of clone templates in Canva and turn those out. I mean, we do want to be efficient, but we also want to be deliberate in the experience that we're developing. What are the most important factors when determining whether it should be gated or non-gated? I think this has been a point of contention for teams that I've worked with over time, right? We just spent 3 months working on this really beautiful PDF download. We got to put up a form where we ask for 50 pieces of information before they actually get to download it. But people are savvy to that now, right? I mean, are people really coming around the web and only filling out forms for businesses they want to engage with, or are they filling out forms because they're interested in it? So how do we find that bridge of converting people, but also not withholding useful information that's going to develop trust with you and your brand and your business? We can gate every single piece of content that we ever see, but if people don't really care whether or not they're filling out a form with their generic Yahoo email that they never check, it's pointless anyways. So can we create a user experience that's going to be conducive to them wanting to engage as opposed to just engaging because you've forced them to? Identifying whether you're innovating versus following the format. I mean, this is an important point when developing content. There's a lot of great content out there. I mean, in fact, you could probably go to about any topic and find a blog post that is saying the same messaging that you need to say. And you could probably pull from it and repackage it, make it nice and make it work for you. But like, are you really moving the needle with your audience if that's what you're delivering? I know the event space really wants to innovate, right? You don't want them to come to your event and say, that was what I expected, right? You want them to feel like it's innovative. So how can we do the same thing with our digital marketing and our content marketing? And that kind of leads into creating nuanced content, right? I mean, if we can, again, understand our audience, we can deliver a more nuanced experience that's going to be meaningful and actually matter to the audience that's consuming it. Globalization is a big issue. I know we talk a lot about we run our marketing business in EMEA and in the UK, and whether we throw a Z or an S in the word organizers, right? I mean, all of these things are have to be thought of when you're defining who your audience is. And some of these things have to be thought of in terms of your marketing efficiencies and whether or not they're going to impede your ability to actually do the job versus actually offend or off-put some of your audience members on how you spell the word or delivered a piece of content. But even understanding who that audience is, maybe in a certain region they don't like the way certain things feel or look, so why aren't we building it for that audience in mind? There's many marketing tools, lots of simplified experiences that can be developed. What are the best practices, and then how can you innovate on those best practices? Because turnkey status quo is efficient, but is it good? Could be either way. I'd rather have a efficient system that works, that's good, than a good thing that's inefficient. But at the same time, drawing that balance is incredibly important, especially because we're shorthanded and always biting off more than we can chew. And then the final point with content is the kind of empowering the organization. All of this content, all of this information, all of this feeds back to the process of developing for your show, developing for your experience. The reason why I compare the visitor's journey to the experience itself is because they are going to engage with your brand from day one, and they're going to continue to engage with your brand, hopefully event 2, 3, 4, 5, 100. And the consistency and the efficacy of your content is going to be important. So that is my final slide. Again, my name is Kyle Jared. I can be found at any of the Kyle Jared monikers on any of the social channels. But thank you for coming, and I appreciate your time.
I was muted apparently. The story of 2021. Kyle, first of all, apologies for getting your name wrong initially. I should have known better. And thank you for a very insightful presentation, mate. You went some great detail in that. But I have got a few questions for you in the time that we have left allotted. The first question is, do we expect results too quickly? And I think what they mean by that is that, that now with digital technologies, and we can actually see, reports and information coming back to us about the activities that we're doing. Some of those numbers aren't always what people expect. For example, let's say they're not in they expect, the things to go viral, or for them to get 1 million impressions or 1 million click-throughs and things like that. Do you think we expect results too quickly? Do you think we should give campaigns and programs that we do a little bit longer to see what the results are?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's certainly a meaningful thought experiment, right? Is what can we launch and how can we measure it and how can we prove that it's right or wrong so that we can do something else? And I don't believe that any of our marketing needs to be a this or that. It needs to be a this and evolve into that, right? Like as we learn our people, the touch points of any campaign, right, are basic as how many people did it, how many eyeballs got on it, right? Yes. Okay. We saw a lot of people saw it. Okay. Did people click on it? Well, not as many people clicked on it, but we know this many people clicked on it. What can we do to make the clicks better? Like, should we change the CTA? Should we say learn more? Should we say buy now? And that's evolution. That's A/B testing. That's like continually making things better as you go. Not scrap it. They didn't like purple. Let's do it red, right? Like these are things that are part of that cycle of improvement. I mean, even down to the form, right? We can A/B test forms or multivariate test forms until we're blue in the face, and it's a good habit to form, right? Just stick to your principles of what is your business challenge and what is the goal of this project, and then insert some changes along the way. And over the course of a year, 2 years, you'll establish some best practices that this works. When we use this button, it works. When we use this button, it doesn't work. So let's not design a campaign with that button. And then what? To be honest, sometimes that button stops working, and you realize we got to try something new. So it's the evolving times of digital is exciting, and I guess it keeps me employed. But that's the idea, to kind of keep iterating, keep evolving.
Great answer, mate. Fantastic. I think we've got time.
But understand the measurement.
Well, that brings me on to, I think we've got time for one more question. And one of the other questions here is, what KPIs do you look for? What KPIs do you track to qualify success? What are you measuring, Kyle?
Yeah, I try to reverse engineer it, right? I mean, it's easier said than done, but if we understand the end goal, right? In order to have an successful event, we need to have 1,000 attendees. 1,000 attendees at this price point. I know that I can kind of work my way backwards into understanding, well, typically we get this many conversions for these ads, but that's hard. If you're starting from scratch, you don't really have benchmark data. But I want to measure every little piece along the way so that we can turn those nozzles in the right direction, right? Are we spending too much money on ads that aren't really converting? Let's maybe turn that down and focus on organic social, and because those are getting more attention. But if I have all of those data points along the way to consider, I can make changes to that. So when I try to measure what KPIs are, and when I wrap up a big report for the boss at the end of the day, I want to say, this is why or how it worked, or this is why or how these things didn't work, so that we can collectively say, this is how we change it. Not we failed to hit our goals, but this is how we're improving to continue to hit those goals, because it's kind of constantly evolving. And so many trends and things change over time. I know that's kind of a backwards answer, but ultimately, I need to measure every touch point along the way in order to have a good understanding of what is or isn't working.
No, I think that's a really good answer, mate. Well, thank you very much for giving us such a great presentation. Any of the attendees that want to reach out to Kyle directly, you can do via the platform. I'm sure if you want access to his presentation, if you'll happily make that available to everybody. Thank you for tuning into this session. Kyle, thank you for joining us once again, and we'll see you in the next session.
All right. Thanks, guys.